Hi everyone, I'm Christina.
And I'm Alicia.
And we are Paranormal Girls. In today's episode, we are talking about people of, it's our TikTok thing that we look at through questions and all that jazz. People of Reddit who have encountered ghosts or other supernatural beings. What was your experience like? What happened?
So this is the first story. I was in a motorcycle accident a few months back. I broke my spine and needed surgery to fuse several vertebrae. As they brought me into the surgery, I noticed two men standing in the corner of the OR looking not at all surgically clean or entirely out of place. Looking back at it, I later recognised them as my two late grandfathers, one of whom died in the hospital, the other died during a surgery. The reason I know that they were my grandfathers was because my parents told me a story about how they were in the hospital's food court during my 11-hour surgery. My dad heard his father telling him that everything was going to turn out alright. He told my mum and she wasn't at all surprised because she had heard her father tell her that I was going to be fine. Even though this was late and they were the only ones in the dead silent cafeteria, I've never told that story before, let alone to the entire world. That don't make sense. Again, does it? So it's like, hang on, let's talk about this. So, from my understanding, I thought he saw his granddad's spirit when he was in surgery. The only reason that I know it was them was because my parents told me about how they were in the food court during my 11-hour surgery, as my dad heard my father telling him it would be alright. Does he mean when he was put to sleep, under maybe?
Yeah, but his grandparents are alive or they're dead.
That's what I'm confused. I think they're alive.
One of whom died in the hospital, the other died during the surgery. I spoke about how they were in hospital's food court during my 11-hour surgery, but they're dead. I'm confused.
Yeah, so did he see their spirit?
The reason I know that was my grandfather's because my parents told me a story about how they were in the hospital's food court during my 11-hour surgery. It doesn't make any sense.
I think they're alive, but I think maybe what he's trying to get at is when you go under the knife, sometimes people think they're seeing things and seeing their bodies sort of thing. So maybe he was asleep, put to sleep during his surgery and saw his grandfathers somehow.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, moving on. People need to learn how to use punctuation.
Clear the phone. I lived in this house with a basement, and every time I walked up the stairs, I would get this weird, creepy goosebumps feeling on the back of my neck. It didn't make me uneasy to go down the stairs or to be in the basement. Okay, my craft room was down there, and I spent a lot of time down there. After a while, I would have items I was using disappear when I would look away from them. I would search, and one day I got frustrated and to no one in particular, I said, can I please have my scissors back? I had just looked under the pile of new mail, and when I turned my head, there were my scissors on top of the pile of mail. I talked to my neighbour and she told me that the original owner of the house was a jolly old man who loved to prank people, and that he had fell coming up the stairs one day and died. I think the goosebumps were him trying to tell me not to be careful, and every time after that, when something would disappear, I'd politely ask for it back, and it would appear in a place that I could not have missed it before. Thanks, old man, it was fun.
That's very wordy, that. She could have just said that I left my scissors somewhere, then they were not there, then they were there again. It would have saved so much time. Anyway, next story.
Anyway,
moving on. I was woken up one night by my grandmother standing next to my bed. It was odd because she lived in a nursing home, but for some reason it felt totally normal to see her standing there. I remember looking up at her and feeling very calm and at peace. Nothing was said, we just looked at each other for what felt like a minute or two, and then I put my head back down and went straight back to sleep. I found out the next morning she had died that night. My brother said he also saw her that night standing by his bed in a long blue nightgown. She was wearing the same thing when I saw her. And so what happened by wearing a long blue gown?
Just saying bye.
When she died, yeah, that's nice.
Aww, that's sad.
Sad, yeah, but nice that she said bye.
Yeah. I tell this same story every time the question is asked, so here goes. Woke up to get a glass of water at night, passed my dad on the way to the kitchen. I asked him something about where he was going. He walked right past me, like he didn't see or even hear me, just was in a type of trance. and he walked out the front door. I looked out the front window and he was sitting on our sidewalk under a tree, hands on his knees, staring into the dark. I went to my mum's room to ask her what Dad was doing. She said, "What do you mean? He's right there." She scooted over as there's my dad lying in bed asleep.
Weird.
Oh gosh.
Next story. I was hanging out at my friend's house with her boyfriend. We were watching TV and she had some unlit tea lights on top of it. All of a sudden, 2 of the tea lights flew off the top and slammed into the opposite walls.
Oh my god.
She got up and said that's been happening a lot lately.
I want to see that happen.
I want to see it. I've seen you haven't seen objects moving by itself, have you? I have.
I don't want to see it. No. I was hanging out at my friend's house with her boy.
I just read that one. Swipe to the next one, woman. Come on, pay attention. Put your glasses on, though.
Liked it so much, I had to say it twice.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Moving on again.
I was staying with a friend in a remote house in Scotland. In the midnight. That's what it is. In the midnight.
Sorry.
I woke up to go to the toilet and suddenly it was very, very cold. And I heard someone complain, "They always make this room dirty, always, I'm cleaning all the time, and still it is dirty." It was so cold for a moment and it was over. Okay. The next morning I told the house owner that last night it suddenly was very cold in the bedroom when I went to the toilet, and before I could say anything else he asked immediately, "Who have you seen?" That "who" part sent shivers down my spine. Not what happened, but who have you seen? Later, he told me his daughter and son-in-law had lived in that very room, and the son-in-law had died in an accident. He loved to keep the room spotless. Even typing this still sends shivers down my spine. But it's dirty.
I'm not gonna lie, I bloody zoned out then. I'm just like, what's going on in these stories? Blimmin' hell.
Blimmin' hell.
Oh my god. You just gotta like read it really slowly, because like if there's, I know not everyone's good with grammar and I get that, but there's
maybe
no
we should read it
punctuation
first,
to read it.
yeah. Because we're reading it
without reading it, yeah. Okay, next story. I'm not one for superstitions. That being said, I went to college at a very old school that has a lot of really old buildings. I was a student worker for the physical plant maintenance, and pretty much everyone there believes in ghosts due to personal experiences they've had. Cops, house cleaners, plumbers, everyone. It took about 2 years for me to get mine. I was alone in a dorm in the summer. We have camp stays, and I was helping clean up the building after they all left. So I'm about to mop the first floor of the building. I'm not spooked at all, but being the only one in the building, like I said, I'm not really into that stuff, and this building isn't that old anyway, probably from the 70s. I have to go get a new mop, so I started walking to the elevator to the janitor's closet on the 2nd floor.
Okay. And?
Let me finish. I think this is the next bit because it disappears.
Right.
As I am like halfway down the long hallway to the elevator, my adrenaline kicks in. I'm like, that's weird, because there's nothing there to stimulate my fight or flight, but I just figured the human body is weird, no big deal. So I get into the elevator, push the 2nd floor button, and the door starts to close. Dun dun dun. Once the door gets to about a foot away from shutting completely, it loudly stops and violently jerks back open as if someone stuck their arm in the space to open the door. Since my adrenaline was already going, it took me half a second to get the F out of there. I went back to the shop and told my boss what had happened, that I weren't going back in alone, and that was that. The floor eventually got mopped, but I'm never comfortable going in that building when it's empty, which is funny to everyone else because it's probably the least creepy place on campus. I mean, at my work, the lifts does like weird things as well.
Oh, really?
I mean, I don't know if it's like electrical fault, because you know when like someone pushes the button it opens.
Oh, yeah.
When I go in the morning, sometimes they just open. It's kind of like they know I'm there. It's like yeah, it's weird.
It's like Ghostbusters.
Yeah, and I'm just like,
thanks.
Because like it shouldn't be doing that. It's not like they're
really?
censored or anything. Do you know what I mean? And then sometimes in the lift, you push the button. You push the button, on my own, and it doesn't go anywhere. And then it goes going up, and then you're like, no, I'm gonna go down.
What?
And then sometimes you walk past them on my floor and they just open, expecting someone to be there and there's no one there.
God, that's scary.
But then my building is haunted, so.
Okay.
But I don't know if the lifts are haunted. Like it could be like an electrical fault that needs to be looked into.
Let's think that.
Yeah. Next story.
Next story. My dad passed away when I was really young. A few years later, I was going to bed, and as I laid there, I saw him walk into my room, look at me and smile. The punctuation's not good, sorry. Then leave. The next morning, I told my mum and brothers at the dinner table like it was nothing. What I didn't realise was that on the same night, my brother had written a letter to my father and left it on his desk with the hopes that he would come and sign it. No signature, but quite a coincidence.
So what's the scary bit in there? I'm confused.
So, he or she saw his dad walk into the room, even though he's dead.
Oh, right.
But never signed, because they wanted him to sign something, apparently. I don't know. That's the end of that.
Well, that's the end of that. Nice and short and sweet this time.
Yeah.
But, next time we will proper read it and, like, put our own punctuation in. So,
Yeah.
it's hard because I can't really answer the question, like... What's the scariest thing that's happened that you know is true? Like,
all I can say is what I saw in the last.
Exactly, and I could be like, well, that's not true because I wasn't there.
Because you didn't see it. But
exactly.
To me, it is 100%.
You could be bullshitting right
I'm
now.
not.
I know you're not. I know you're not. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You know. So I don't know. But next time we'll find a question that we can answer as well. But
sounds good too.
But that's the end of this series, guys. Please like and follow us and stay tuned for more. Bye.
Bye.